Didn't take long for EA and DICE to turn out Battlefield 2 Special Forces, the expansion to 2005's Smash Online action game. And judging from the teething problems that the expansion is having, it looks like EA and DICE Canada, the developer of Special Forces, didn't take long enough. That's because Special Forces is an excellent expansion that delivers more of the intense online combat that fans of Battlefield 2 adore, but it's also crippled by some potentially show-stopping bugs. And if you can get it running though, you're in for a great time. Really great new content in Special Forces that builds on the strengths of Battlefield 2. Special Forces adds a total of 8 new maps, including a spaceport complete with a launching pad and rocket, gutted out cities, an airfield and an island. All these maps have an infantry heavy focus, even on their large 64-player variants, and that's good news to Battlefield 2 fans, since the most popular levels in the core game are the urban ones, such as Strike at Karkan. The other good news is that expansion features a number of urban levels similar to Karkan and Shakri Peninsula. In fact, they may be a bit too familiar, as there are some buildings and objects recycled from the core game. Still, there's enough new content in the levels to differentiate them from their predecessors, and to provide more urban playgrounds to romp around in. For example, there's a palace level which one side has to battle through a city to the palace gates, and then into the palace itself, which provides a large mix of indoor and outdoor combat. Yet perhaps the best new map is the reverse amphibious assault, in which the Middle Eastern coalition forces must board and take over a US aircraft carrier, defended by Navy SEALs. The action takes place on the carrier's deck, in its vast hangar bays, and in its corridors and rooms below. Meanwhile, there are 6 new factions in the expansion, which is a big number considering that Battlefield 2 itself only shipped with 3. These new factions are needed to justify the scenarios. For example, Russian Special Forces versus an insurgent group, or British SAS versus a different type of rebel group. Though one of the disadvantages of having 6 factions, and only 8 maps, is that you only see factions only once or twice throughout the game. You still can't mix and match factions and maps to create different face-offs. DICE says this is for balance purposes, so it seems like you get to see a favourite new faction only a couple of occasions. Then again, the factions are fairly interchangeable to begin with, since they feature similar weapons and vehicles.
On here!
We're dealing with Special Forces in this expansion. Each faction is broken down into the same classes, as well as the conventional factions in Battlefield 2. So each faction has a Special Forces class armed with a carbine and plastic explosives, a support class that carries a light machine gun and it can drop ammo packs, an anti-tank class that carries a submachine gun and a tank killing weapon, and so on. There's even a new RPG. Speaking of the new RPG, there is a slew of new weapons to round out their arsenals, though for the most part these simply feel like cousins of existing Battlefield 2 weapons. For example, there's a new British assault rifle that has a grenade launcher attached, and a new SEAL carbine with a scope, but they operate just like the weapons in Battlefield 2. The major additions to the game are the new toys that you get to play with that you didn't have access to before. These include the grappling hook, zipline, and flashbang, and tear gas grenades. The hook and zipline provide a whole new level of mobility to infantry, and now you can haul yourself up to a previously inaccessible rooftop, or perhaps bypass a heavily defended stairwell by climbing up the side. Since you carry either a hook or a zipline, you'll need to work together with your team if you really want to exploit these new capabilities. These new items are balanced well, so they're useful without being overpowered. For example, climbing up the rope is a slow process, just like it was in gym class, so you're completely exposed to anyone passing by who wants to take a few free shots at you. On infantry combat, there are several new vehicles in Special Forces, including a jet ski, an ATV, and several new types of wheeled vehicles, including junked out cars and technicals, pickup trucks with heavy machine guns mounted in their beds. The jet ski and ATV are a bit gimpy at first, but you'll quickly discover that they are an excellent way to zip around the map, provided you don't slam into anything. There's also a sense that there's less emphasis on vehicles, overpowering the levels, as they can do in some Battlefield 2 maps. There are fewer tanks and jets, and more light vehicles and transports. While Special Forces features a single-player mode, it offers no improvements over the single-player found in Battlefield 2. For some reason, only 6 of the game's 8 levels are available in single-player, and they are all limited to the 16-player map variant. Single-player is just like multiplayer in terms of gameplay, only with bots instead of real human players. And the bot artificial intelligence is a mix of both smart and brain-dead. At this point, single-player is useful for familiarizing yourself with the levels, and since 2 of the levels are unplayable in single-player, it's not even that helpful. Special Forces is plagued with bigger issues. There are a slew of issues that are hampering players from even installing the expansion. For instance, there's a required pre-installation patch that requires 3 GB of the free hard drive space in order to install, and this is affecting some players out there. I encountered a different error that prevented me from installing the patch on one machine, even though I had tons of free hard drive space. An even bigger issue involves EA's new digital distribution service. There's a CD key issue preventing some users from playing the game. EA has acknowledged this issue and is looking to fix it, but they already have. But even if you manage to install the patch, and then install the expansion successfully, you must install a second 280 MB patch to get the game up to date. All this makes this feel like a product that was rushed out for the holidays. Is that while these technical issues will probably be addressed, they mar what is an otherwise excellent expansion to one of the year's best action games. Special Forces delivers more of the intense urban combat the fans of Battlefield 2 love, and there are a lot of cool moments in the game, from the way you parachute into one level to the intense and desperate firefights that can erupt for control of a flag. If you loved Battlefield 2, then the expansion is a no-brainer, but there's plenty in here for newcomers to appreciate as well. Please subscribe, and I'll see you on the battlefield.